We are ready to look at immigration trends for the United States and some global immigration trends since 1500. Of course, in 1492, Columbus sails the ocean blue. That radically changes movement of humanity on this planet, which really continues 5 centuries later to this very day. We're going to start, though, with U.S. immigration and migration trends. I love this map. Although it's not perfect, this is a really great map. World migration since 1500. Europeans, Africans, South Asians, Chinese, European Jews, Americans and Canadians, Russians, Mexicans and Central Americans, Caribbeans, Southeast Asians. All of these people moving around. Keep in mind as we go back to this map and we revisit it throughout this lecture, keep in mind that those arrows are over time. The thicker the arrow, the more people have moved. It's not all at one shot. There have been 3 main waves of migration, immigration into the United States over the last 500 years. The Colonial Era, the mid-1800s through the early 20th century, and then the post-World War II era. Do you know when World War II was? What year did it end? Good, 1945. We got to have that. The Colonial Era is pre-1840. Overwhelmingly, the people who were coming to the United States at that time were coming from the British Isles, which is Great Britain and Ireland, Northwestern Europe, and Africa. About 90% of European immigrants came from Great Britain at that time. And of course, there were about 650 enslaved Africans that also entered into what became the United States. If you look at this map again, I circled the European immigration. Notice it is, of course, Northwestern Europe, the British Isles, and you can see the African migration. Of course, this is a forced migration because of slavery, coming overwhelmingly from West Africa and then moving into the United States, especially the southeastern part of the United States. This is a 1790 census from the University of Virginia. You can see the numbers of people as it was counted at that time. English, people of English descent, African slaves, Scots, which would be people of Scottish descent, Germans, Dutch, Irish, French, Hebrew, which is Jewish. Other, I honestly don't know what the other is. I would assume this may be indigenous people who are being counted, and then the total population, 1790. Take a look at this, kind of a flow chart in a way, and notice that on the left-hand side, you can see this is the end of the colonial era. Where are these people coming from? Ireland, Germany, and the UK. Then the mid-1800s to the early 20th century. Germany accounted for the most immigrants coming to the United States during that period, but that was followed by Italy, Great Britain, Ireland, Russia, and Eastern Europe in general. And of course, the Chinese began to come to the west coast of the United States. Again, take a look at the map. You can see still this very large green arrow of people coming from Europe towards the United States. And now you can see over on the right-hand side, we have circled the Chinese immigration coming towards the United States and ending up in the western part of the United States. Now look at this flow. You can see that when we move into that mid-century, early 20th century time frame, you can see what do we have? A shift over to Italy, Russia, Hungary, even Canada. And if you look down there at the bottom, there's the Chinese. In the post-World War II era, in keeping with the demographic and migration transitions, migration shifts away from European countries, which have increasingly reached stages 3 and 4 of those transitions, and it shifts towards Latin America, especially Mexico, followed by the Dominican Republic, Cuba, Haiti, Central America, and Colombia, and Asia, with China leading the way, but Philippines, India, South Asia in general, Vietnam also contributing. You can see that I've circled the migration on the left-hand side from Latin America, coming up from Mexico, Central America, Cuba, and then on the right-hand side, you can see that the flow continues from China, Vietnam, Philippines. Here we have this circled. You can see that red, the higher peak right in there. This is Mexico, but you can see other immigrant groups coming in, also China, the Philippines. There's some other migrations I want you to be aware of because we aren't the only game in town, of course. With regard to Latin America, remember, because of 1492 and Columbus kind of opening this massive migration, you can see that people begin to flow into Latin America, of course, from Africa as slaves, and then from Europe, especially the southern part of Europe, from the Iberian Peninsula of Spain and Portugal. And then there was movement in the British Commonwealth, which are all the countries that were tied to the British Empire. You can see that up on the top, you can see movement into Canada, which is part of the Commonwealth. And then you can see India right in here and South Asia and all of this movement going down into, of course, Australia, South Africa, going into the United Kingdom. All of that movement tied directly to the fact that the British controlled those areas at one point. So there's a book called 1493 that I read by a man named Charles Manns. Very interesting book. Describes the immediate century following the arrival of Columbus. This brought about, of course, vast changes economically, environmentally, socially, linguistically, religiously on the planet as Europeans kind of imposed their will on other people throughout the world. But it also, for our purposes right now, brought about mass migration. The largest amount of migration in human history has happened since 1492. And as that book points out, Mexico City, for about a century after Columbus arrived, becomes the center of the world. And the reason is because it's a transit point between East and West, what's sometimes known as an entrepot. And what's going on is people are coming from the East, that means from Africa and Europe, and people are coming from the West, which would be Asia, and they're meeting in Mexico City. And as a result of that, there's this incredible kind of mix, this soup of people there who are indigenous people, of course, but Europeans and Africans and Chinese and Filipinos and Jews and Arabs all mixing in Mexico City over that first century. Many people who do the DNA tests who are of Mexican extraction and they're in the United States find that there's a surprise when they do the DNA test, and they're actually something that they would have not thought that they were, like East Asian or Jewish or Arab. This is because Mexico City sat really in the middle of the world for about 100 years.